Greetings and welcome to GatherVerse Women's Health Summit Day 2, 2026. We've arrived on the heels of a very important summit that we've had just yesterday for our Day 1. This is our 41st Global GatherVerse Summit. We've assembled leaders from around the world, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, to have deep and oftentimes intimate discussions at the intersections of emerging technologies and humanity, coupled with accessibility, education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, care, compassion, trust, and more. We spoke yesterday of the journey between an embryonic to fetal, the baby, a child in the womb, from a small child to a daughter, to teenager to woman, and her explorations in life. And each day and every step of the way, there are moments all connected between the survival. And as we progress in this modern present world, contemporary to our time, thus so does technology. And here at GatherVerse, we have a real interest on the impact of emerging technologies and how it impacts our health, our anatomical structures, our mental wealth, and some would even say your spiritual health. When we think about these opportunities to be able to innovate, have we also considered the opportunities to be able to scale, not just with technical infrastructure, but with human compassion in each and everything that we innovate? We talked about yesterday decency and wellness environments. We talked about exceptionalism, surgical development, and surgical theater. We talked about the impact of artificial intelligence in the hand of a practitioner, a specialist, a patient. What happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? And in many ways and aspects, this has now come to pass. With technologies like artificial intelligence becoming made even more transparent by way of spatial intelligence and visual intelligence, what does that mean? We now can see these multi-headed agentic systems in these models with personifications. And these self-same machines, these language foundational models that we interact with, many of us daily, whether we want to or not, which in many ways is extraordinary technology, and the feats that we've witnessed just in the past 3 years, let alone the past several months, perhaps we can even say in the past several days, is astounding. But what impact does that have when it comes to humanity and wellness, and in particular, the disproportion of women in health? If a woman receives care, then she should be involved in the development of that care. We spoke about more need for women founders and entrepreneurs, innovators to become funded. Yes, we believe at GatherVerse that more women should be funded to create and innovate the machines that are working on their bodies. This is a very different time. Me, as an emergent technologist, have never been more excited about technology itself. But I'm much more enthusiastic and excited about technology when everyone has the opportunity to development to build and scale, to learn and to access. This is so much of what GatherVerse is about. Bringing people together and humanizing a conversation globally, one voice at a time. We're very thankful to have each of you join us from GatherVerse.live and from our various social streams. And we know as GatherVerse continues to go forward, and even in our live broadcasting, the ascendancy and the joining together becomes even greater, where each speaker comes and they brings their community with us. We greet each of you, those that have returned to us and those that are coming in for the first time. We thank you. We're appreciative. Moreover, we're grateful. We have an incredible series of talks and expressions, and as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. And we have an incredible roundtable discussion titled At Every Woman's Health Phase, Better Information and Better Support. I'm thankful that these leaders have come to arrive to join us, led by Russell Bundy. I'll leave you with this. If we do not help guide and build these devices with inclusive culture of women, if we do not educate the world on women's health as humans, then something else will. May our gather be well.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of GatherVerse Women's Health Summit 2026. And what a fantastic introduction from the almighty founder, Christopher, for the amazing introduction. But right now we have a roundtable discussion where we're going to be talking about every woman's health phase, better information and better support. So I'm very interested to hear from the panelists about this roundtable discussion. Also, what we're going to do very quickly is we're going to have a 30-second introduction from each of the panelists so they can introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the questions after that as well. So we're going to start to my left-hand side, which is Paige. So Paige, please introduce yourself, and also great to see you again, and welcome to GatherVerse too.
Thank you, Russell. It's a delight and honor to be here with this esteemed panel. Thank you. My name is Paige Dansinger. I am the volunteer director at the XR Women Museum. It's a place where we amplify women's voices through creative technology.
It's great to have you with us, Paige, and I hear so many of the amazing things that you do over at XR Women Museum. So thank you for joining us once again today.
My pleasure.
Lorna, please introduce yourself. And I don't know if this is your first time here or not, but I mean, it's my first time meeting you. So please introduce yourself, Lorna.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lorna. It's a pleasure meeting all of you. It's actually my second time. And I am a paralegal and a keynote speaker, and I want to educate and help people to understand about how important it is to put things in place ahead of time so that when women do maybe find themselves in a situation where something goes awry, maybe on the delivery table, or we're having fibroid treatment or something like that, and they say have no power of attorney, they have no type of directive letting people know what their wishes are. And then also I ran my own health food store for 5 years. So I'm into like alternative medicine as well as working with the system that can help to save lives and bring emergency treatment. Amen.
Well,
Sorry
thank you.
about
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Lorna. That was an in-depth introduction, but I love it. So thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Over to you, Lynn. Please introduce yourself, and great to see you again as well.
Hello, excited to be here. Shamama Lynn, founder of Cosmic Rose Wellness and creator of the Purpose Embodiment Method, which is a trauma-informed energy medicine technique that I'm currently starting a study on, which I'm super excited about. And I've really thought about how to introduce myself. So I am a former aerospace engineer with Boeing and NASA, become spiritual guide, contactee, medium, and psychic empath.
Wow, Lynn, that's a long list there.
I know, I don't know, but I have to be clear with things that are so unclear.
Very true. Thank you for joining us, Lynn. And Diana, welcome to GatherVerse. It's great to have you with us as well. Please introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. My name is Diana Adamko. I am originally from Hungary, and British Hungarian has become now. And my background is from education and personal development and mindset. And then through my own personal journey, that has become more touching into women's health and well-being, especially emotional and spiritual health, and helping women through a series of things that I have developed, really connect to their body, to their cycle, being cycle awareness, having cycle awareness in their lives. And this is how Sense for Life have grown into, which I have founded a little method that is helping us to connect to our cycle, connect to our life stages, to our body, and being able to take care of our health on all levels, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, wherever it takes.
Wherever it takes, I like that. Thank you so much for joining us, Diana. And we'll go over to Felista. Is that how you say your name, I believe?
Yeah, you said it well. So.
Oh, nice. Please introduce yourself, Felista.
Thank you. So my name is Felista Yogo, and I am a healthcare interoperability and AI expert. And my professional life and volunteer life really much touches about technology and people in society. I spent a lot of my earlier life working on women health and girls health, education, and everything else. So being here is a pleasure, and I cannot wait to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Felista, and it's great to have you with us, and welcome to GatherVerse as well. And last but not least, someone who just joined us on the stage, Lauren. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are, and where is the almighty golden retriever?
I hold on.
You have to do it, Lauren. You have to do it every time. Love it.
She's here.
There she is. Hello. Lauren, who are you though? We want to know who you are too.
That's all that's important here. I'm Lauren. I am an immersive technologist. I've done some AI projects as well. She's heavy, so I'm kind of out of breath.
Maybe we should make you go to the gym next time and then introduce yourself.
Yeah. Bench press Avery. Yeah, I have a master's in virtual reality. Also part of XR Women. I have been in the community. I started with a minor in virtual reality at Chapman University in Orange County, which is known for their film school. And then I went to London to get a master's in VR. Yeah, done some AI projects. I went on tour with Drake and worked on a deep fake for him, which was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, great to have you with us, Lauren, and a great introduction as well. And last but not least, for myself, my name's Russell. I am the Global Affairs Director at GatherVerse. I'm also the co-founder of JustVerify, and JustVerify is focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. We're focusing, our mission really in a nutshell is to verify the integrity of any AI model to allow you to have the choice in which you want to trust through trust evidence and proof and evidence and verification. So that's what we do in a nutshell at Just Verify. So it's all about giving individuals and the companies the power to be able to choose what you want to trust in a nutshell. So, so that's what we do at Just Verify. But let's go into the discussion now, where we're going to be talking about at every woman's health phase, better information, better support. So let's start with question 1, and we'll go over to Paige first, and then we'll head over to Felista after. So the question is, how can women across the world obtain accurate health education in every different phase of their health? So Paige, over to you. You might want to unmute your microphone, Paige, and then we can hear you. There we go.
Thank you. Well, I really believe that immersive technology, as well as like mobile technology, even mobile gaming, can help this information and accuracy be more accessible. When I think about accessible education that is interactive, I think of Dr. Jane Harrington's Med Micromaps, or Dr. Linda Ciavarelli's program of creating immersive games to embody our health mechanics and our parts of the body. I think that women need to be part of the story of their own health program.
Mm-hmm.
And immersive technology, mobile gaming helps take ownership and agency over your health. We need to be our strongest advocates and use the tools that we have. I also believe, not to hit every aspect, but our governments or our states or communities also have an important role in this. Here in the United States, Medicare is being used as a political tool, and we need to separate that away from political entities undermining women's health.
That's so important. And I just want to kind of back up what you're saying as well, Paige. I saw an interesting statistic just before I jumped into this roundtable discussion. And basically by 2030, almost 1 billion women are going to either be postmenopause or menopause in their life cycle. And obviously the education for that is extremely important. So when I saw that statistic, I thought that was mind blowing that could happen in just such a short time frame for women in particular, of course. So, but I just wanted to kind of add to what I guess. What are your thoughts on that, Paige, as well?
I think we're so fortunate to have people like Trisha Blake with My Third Bloom podcast and virtual experience, who are focusing in the discussion of menopause and destroying the stigmas of the silence around it. We also have art in upcoming exhibits that highlights our founders or most senior members, and so making sure that their voices are as prevalent in our communications as young adults, I think is really important to have a cross-generational discussions around health.
Absolutely agree. And, that's why obtaining accurate health education is so important when it comes to women and just in general as well. Anything, to do with health-wise is just so important. So thank you so much, Paige, for sharing your thoughts there. And Felista, we'll head over to you now because you have a very interesting background. I'm going to ask you the same question. How can women across the world obtain accurate health education in every different phase of their health? We talk of, heard Paige there talking about, playing games and, being able to learn that way, right? What is your thoughts, Felista?
I think my thoughts are, I think at the start, we all need to acknowledge that every woman, and pretty much every woman, will need different type of information at different times of their lives. And how do we package that information to be personalized and accurate to them? And even understanding what is health education, and I know there's different definition of what is health education, and I got a very interesting one online, and
okay,
health education for women is planned. So can you imagine? It has to be planned. It has to be evidence based, and it has to combine lived experiences of women, and so that at the goal or at the end of it all, we're trying to improve their health by increasing their knowledge, fostering health attitude, and developing skill to prevent and treat diseases. And I tried as much as possible not to go to the UN definition of what is health, because I always loved it, and I can remember when I, as a teenager, reciting what is health in terms of United Nations, and the state is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, and not merely the absence of diseases or infirmity. And if we can pretty much understand what health education is, it's very easy to develop tools that can help us achieve what is it we want women to achieve in terms of their health. So we talked about the mobile technologies, we talked about clinical diagnosis instruments, the apps and all that. Are they all leading us to accurate, personalized health information for women?
Yeah, I completely agree, Felista. And I just, it makes me think about, sort of the AI side of things as well, and how, it's very heavily, obviously, dominated by us, so to speak, right? Not gonna hold my hands up or anything, but but the thing is, it is so important to have women's health like tools and the right AIs for women's side, and how, like Christopher was saying, in integrating women into that from the start, because at the end of the day, whichever AI you may receive healthcare from, it needs to be specialized and focused for women, right? Like, it needs to be built by women, so to speak, for women, right?
Yep.
So,
you're right.
So when you're talking about the data side, I completely agree with what you're saying. It has to be done in the right way, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that, just quickly?
So my thoughts are always live reality of women. And the way you say it, and we've seen, I was looking at statistics even saying that something like Alexa sometime, or even other voice recognition softwares, sometimes they don't even understand women, right? So so can you imagine if that is not doing the basic, like a voice recognition, that I'm asking them random question, cannot understand me as a woman? What about when it comes to health? Sure. So it's going to leave a lot behind for women. So yeah.
Completely agree, Felista. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and for your input. Lauren, we're going to be heading over to you, and then Lorna will head over to you next. So Lauren, over to yourselves. So the question for you is, what misinformation about women's health continues to persist, and how can that be addressed? Over to you, Lauren.
Okay, that's kind of a fun question. I think if I understand this question correctly, I would just say that, like, honestly, there's probably not enough emphasis and like importance revolving around like stress management and sleep. And like in the society that we live in, people work so hard all the time, and they like forget to take breaks and go outside and see the sunshine. And I think that's really important. And not to say that like misinformation is kind of an interesting one, because it's like, who is exactly like giving us this information? And maybe that's the problem. I feel like maybe health is not talked about enough. Yeah.
Maybe that's where the misinformation stems from, right?
Yeah,
because it isn't spoken about, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, for example, like I started a part-time job at Best Buy, and it's just kind of like there's a lot of issues. But one of them is that like this one girl that also started around the same time as me has been denied her like 15-minute breaks multiple times, and that's illegal for one.
I was gonna say, like, that is definitely not legal.
Yeah, and like also it just makes us like, I haven't been denied any breaks, but like I can imagine how she feels, because like working at Best Buy and being new is like hard. It's just it requires a lot of adaptation and a lot of like I don't know, it's just like dealing with people can be difficult. So like just the amount of like just taking a 15-minute break to go outside and like getting some fresh air is really important.
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking, like, could the misinformation potentially stem from just decades previously of what something was understood back, like, let's say 50 years ago, might not be the same now, and maybe that could be the originator of the misinformation itself when it comes to modern day. I mean, that could be, I'm just guessing here. I don't have any sort of statistics or facts to back that up, but that's kind of my thinking. When we talk about misinformation with AI, for example, again, that's all from books, that's all from the internet, etc. So all that data that it's trained on has all misinformation within that too. So could that potentially be just from historical records that maybe it wasn't right at the time, but just an idea?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, either way, I think that people should go outside more and get more fresh air and do yoga.
Well, thank you very much for your thoughts, Lauren. I love that. Straight to the point. Fantastic. Lorna, let's bring you on this question. What are your thoughts on what misinformation about women's health continues to persist, and how can that be addressed? Is there any particular point that you can think of, or maybe you've seen, or etc.? Okay, looks like I'm having issues with Lorna. So we'll head over to Diana. Diana, we're going to fire this question over to you. Sorry about the jump there and the shock factor. You're like, who, what? Diana, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this question?
I think that what you were saying, that is like what misinformation about women's health continues to persist is like a historical fact, because there is no, it is historically established that women's health were not researched. We were not part of clinical trials because they thought that women's cycles is making unreliable results in researches. So everything is based on male health and male body and male biology. So from this point of view, it's really easy to have all sorts of misinformation. I mean, I think that's like, it's an amazing opportunity that when AI and technology is coming to its height, and it's really like we're on this cusp of things where technology is just going to run everything almost, then this is the moment when we are really digging deep into women's health, human health, the human body, because women's health is cyclical and human nature is cyclical. We're always going to be one brain per body. So we will always need the cyclicalness, the slowness, that sort of thing. And I think when it comes to misinformation about women's health, nobody knows. Like, even women don't know about their own health. Women don't know about their own cycle. Have been, since our 20s, we go on to contraceptive pills, which means that our cycle stops. We don't bleed. We are completely disconnected from our body. We don't observe our body. We have no idea what's going on with us. So it is like a huge gap where misinformation can be anything. We don't know our own body. If you go to the doctor, the only thing they ask you is when was your last period, but nobody's explaining it, why it's important. I'm not even sure if we're trained why this is important, why they need to ask this question, apart from trying to establish that are you pregnant or not. But actually there's so much significance to your cycle, so much significance to your age. So basically, we don't know our own health. We have never been educated about own health. Doctors have never been really properly educated about women's health because everything is based on male biology. Hormonal cycle is not really, female hormonal cycle is not really part of, training for to be a doctor. So much is missing. It's very easy, I think, misinformation to be left, right, center, because we don't know. So it's important to establish that where we are coming from and why we feel that misinformation, like this historical thing that is a foundation. There is no foundation for our health, and we really need to dig into research. And I think this is why technology is important, because for women to connect with technology as well, because we can feed our stories, our information into the technology. So then AI is going to bring the right answer, because sometimes we think, as you said, that just right, what is verified and what is correct. So if technology is picking up on the data gap, then whatever you get back from technology is going to be misinformation, because we have so much gap in research. So when we see technology as objective, we also need to know that technologies only will be as good as for information if we feed in the right information, and that is missing. So I think it's the misinformation is on the personal level, that you don't know what's happening to you. You don't know why your health is going away. And when you go to the doctor, when you go to a community, other women also can't tell you, because nobody, even between women and women, this information are not shared, and we don't know. So I think it's not even the fact that give me a specific misinformation, is that this general space where we are in, that none of us really sure what to look for and when to go and go deeper into our health, what is normal, how it should be working on a daily basis, how my body is. It's a lot of effort to find it out. Like I could say personal examples where I was misdiagnosed at the doctor when I entered into perimenopausal phase, and the doctor just gave me a lot of pills for pain and nothing else. And when I went home, I just thought, no, this is not how it's going to be. I don't want to live in pain, and I don't want to be popping pills and painkillers. And I kept digging and digging and digging until I found some research where it shows that actually this is the age gap that I am in, where these kind of digestive issues show up for women between 45 and 55 because of perimenopause, because of hormones. And after this period, it goes away. And it's important for women to know, because this is how then you can support yourself and support your health. And then empowered, you can go to the doctor.
We're having technical issues with yourself. We're having technical difficulties there. I can see the camera going a bit funny there. So anyway, I want to just jump in. Misinformation is such a huge thing, and it's just something that really needs to be solved. So always do your research, always figure things out, and as Lauren says, always go outside too. So the next question is, what role should partners and families play in supporting women's health decisions? Lynn, we'll head over to you now, and thank you so much for your patience. But we have a great question for you, so please fire away.
This. What role should partners play? Listen to women. Let women guide. For me, health, the biggest thing that we need to be shifting is our food. Really, that's kind of the basis of everything. I personally am plant-based. Everyone's on a journey. But for example, I hear a lot of women say, oh, I would love to be plant-based, but my husband, does anyone, or my boyfriend, but my partner doesn't want to. So we need men to start trusting us and our intuitions about what might be best for the family. And then women also need to feel a little bit more empowered to choose what you put in the grocery cart. And if you don't want to eat it, then go make your own food. You know, and that's a little fiery, but we do have, there's a certain energy of like reclaiming it. And the other point I wanted to make, regardless of what question I got, is the most important, the technology is so amazing for spreading, but the most important technology is this technology. The technologist is a technology. And so the technology will be used to put forth the healers in the metaverse, to put forth all of the women here. Like, women have so many gifts, the intuition, we know telekinesis, we know magic is real, and we've been afraid. We have generational trauma, witch trials, Bible stuff, non-Bible stuff. We have a lot of darkness emerging right now. And so what is important to remember is I always bring it back to the science, right? I go way out and I'm going to come back in to the science of matter, is that everything is 99.999% empty space. So everything that we're talking about isn't really real. So if we want to talk about virtuality, we need to talk about what we're living in, and our choice, our mind is the technology that we should be harnessing. And that goes into nervous system regulation. So when we're talking about sleep, when we're talking about anxiety, when we're talking about all this stuff. And what partners and families need to do is stop calling women woo-woo. They need to stop shaming us when we start slamming down the truth in a way that isn't gentle with a big smile on our face, because there's a seriousness. And as I have stepped into my power, I am called like rude so much. Like, I was never aware that my power was so offensive.
Okay.
And all the women, and I love that your response to that, because you cannot understand, but every woman on this camera knew exactly what I said and exactly what I meant. And so the men is kind of trust our words when we say these things. And then my answer is energy work. My answer is changing the way we think and just trusting that the system that we have is a facade. And it's not working, and it does not serve us. And we need to dismantle everything without burning it to the ground. And this is where the diplomat in me, I'm really having to channel this balanced energy that we're not burning it to the ground. This is unity, and everything that's birthed from this darkness and through the suppression of the feminine has served a purpose. But now the partners, the families need to open space to let us lead, and let us do it in the way that we need to do it, which isn't always going to be like a fairy bouncing around, right? There's like, sometimes you just need to shut up and listen. And that's all I can say. And I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to I'm talking like,
how dare you, Lynn?
You know, I love you, Russell. And I do want to say that, like, this medium, every man that I've encountered through GatherVerse and just like LinkedIn in general, they're very, very high level men. There is like, it's beyond hope. It's already written in the stars that we're going to figure this out. But there is a level of conditioning to stay closed-minded and to tune us out. And I don't know the answer to how men can open to be receptive, except for me, it's through energy work. It's through deep internal reflection versus anything that you can do on the outside. So I don't want to say anything else, but.
No, you did bring up a interesting point, you know, when we're talking about families and when we're talking about partners, etc. Like, it is extremely important, because at the end of the day, right, me being a man, of course, the thing is it, you know, women obviously know their bodies better than what we do. So when they say something's wrong, right, within their health, could be anything, right? It could be, I don't know, that they feel unwell or whatever it is, right? If she's telling you that, then obviously, you know, me as a partner, if you want to call it that, you know, you need to understand that and go, okay, there is something wrong. She's telling me that. So, you know, we need to go to the doctors or do X, Y, and Z. So I completely agree that women know their bodies better than what men do, which is kind of why we're having this whole discussion of, you know, why is it that we need AI built by women, you know, for women? Because women know women better and know the bodies better. So that should be built by women and incorporated into it. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Lynn. And I think, you know, as a guy myself, so to speak, you know, having the understanding, that realization, and listening to the woman when she says something is wrong, I completely agree that as a partner, or even a family member like my sister, for example, you know, I need to make sure that, okay, she's telling me something's wrong, so we need to go to doctors or whatever it is. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Lynn. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Can I take on one little thing just really quickly? And the answer might not be to go to the doctors. I mean, that's kind of the most important point too, is that there's a lot of intuitive wisdom in the body that is available, and some of the doctors they aren't educated enough to offer. I mean, I've been doing more sweat lodge sweating, cold plunging, and aromatherapy, and I feel the amount of stress that this psychic feels based on what's going on in the collective is more than most people could fathom. And it's natural remedies that are helping me, nothing that is medication. And so I also just want men to trust, if the woman says, I want to try something else, trust that too.
Agreed, Lynn. And also, by the way, I just add also what you're saying as well. Just one last thing as well. Do you know what? It could be just something as simple as having a conversation.
Breathing together.
So,
inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8.
Anyway, thank you very much, Lynn. We do need to get around to the other questions. So let's go to the next question now. Question 5 is, how can digital health tools improve support without overwhelming women with data? So we had this discussion very briefly earlier. So Lorna, we're going to try you once again. Hopefully we have no issues, technical issues this time. So Lorna, over to you on this question.
I think digital tools can help a lot. I saw on TV they have where you can order your own EKGs. I don't know if people have seen that. And then also I've been to a place in Costa Mesa, California, where I was able to pick which areas of my body I wanted to have ultrasounds done on. And I know that, so like if they could really get that out, that suppose, you know, it's taking too long to get an authorization, but there's an app that you can go somewhere else to talk about your heavy menstrual cycles, because so many times women are having to get hysterectomies, and by the time they get it, they've got about 8 fibroids, some of them the size of grapefruits, that have literally been feeding off their body with veins and, you know, and capillaries and all kinds of stuff, feeding it like it's a baby. And then if there could be an app that we could incorporate with the schools, so that if a young underage girl is afraid to tell her parents she's sexually active, maybe she could be able to go to the school nurse and get a pregnancy test. But of course, the parents could consent that, yes, if she wanted to get tests for an STD, but then when we find out the results, the parents, of course, would be notified. But make these type of things more accessible, because I think that underage girls, and sometimes even preteens, whether they're sexually active by their own volition or against their own volition, they don't have access. And even resources to be able to go outside of your insurance to get Pap smears and mammograms, since oftentimes there's age categories. Like if a woman's over 70, they feel, oh, she doesn't need a Pap smear, she's not sexually active. But as a former Medicare broker for almost 10 years, there's a whole bunch of sex going on at, you know, nursing homes and over 65 apartments and things like that.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that we need to coordinate that. And I bet you that probably 1 or 2% of the general population even know that if they're having some issue that their doctor is disregarding or telling them it's only in their mind or it's just your period, you know, other resources. So coordinating that just the same way, of course, GatherVerse is definitely a platform where people can be able to learn about that there's things available outside the box, and, you know, coordinate links and things like that, and even encourage one another to get some of these things started. And a lot of times people would love to read medical journals and scholarly reports and see what's happening, not just in our country, but in all the other countries. Because just like how there's certain things like the flaming hot Cheetos we all like, but those dyes are banned in other countries, like Britain and other places. So there's just so many things over here that we're allowed to eat that are poisoning ourselves, but the word's not getting out.
Yeah,
yes.
I hear that a lot about the US. The food there is not the best. Let's say in very nice terms.
Yes. Digitally.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but talking about digitally, we could have, whether it's Doodly or some 10-second reels that can kind of show in a pictorial way, or even a song, because we all remember things that we learned as a Miss Rachel song or growing up with Sesame Street, but something, and then of course do it in a way where you have the involvement, say, of whatever the age group is. Which one, like split testing, which of these things do you think would go viral? So we can get the word out, but just something, since there's such a short attention span, 10 seconds, use our digital tools to share the resources and information.
I honestly, I think it's even less than that now with the TikTok brains these days. But no, I completely agree with you, Lorna. I think information just needs to be so simple and simplified down that it's so easy to understand that instead of overwhelming women with all the data, if they can just see something simple, like they can just see and go, okay, like how you're saying about the food comparisons. Let's say they want to compare one food to another food, and they say, okay, which one's more toxic, for example, right? And they compare both their foods, and they'll be like, well, this helps me with my menopause, this doesn't. Okay, I'm going to eat this food, right? Simple tools like that will be extremely important going forward. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I was about 13, I had a lump removed from my breast. And like back then, because I'm 58 now, they kind of did like a localized thing, local anesthesia, strap you down to the table and took it out. And they showed it to me and my mom. It looked like a meatball or something. And luckily it was benign or what have you. But when our system is set up that you don't even begin to get mammograms until a certain age, that means you could have an 18-year-old or a 16 or 15-year-old with breast cancer.
And that's so important.
And the same thing with the pap smears. Just only be so we could share where you can go and then get like the head of the departments of the OBGYN and people like that who'd be willing to be spokespeople for us to say it's okay if something's not smelling right, if it's not feeling right, if it's itching, if it's burning or whatever. And then a lot of times there's things that have no symptoms at all. And then not only that, they don't test for every single thing under the sun. So sometimes, like I'm saying, digitally, if they could know about a place where they can go pay $200, even on a payment plan, and get an ultrasound of this part or that part, they can head some things off at the pass and save a whole bunch of recovery time, sick time, stress leave, and everything that goes along with a woman or mother having to be off work for 6 weeks to recover from something we could have discovered 3 years ago.
Absolutely, Lorna. And on that note, that was a mic drop moment right there. So thank you very much for that. So next question is, why are women often underrepresented in clinical research, and what are the consequences? Oh my God, this is just an important question. So Paige, we're gonna hand this over to you because I know you like to take the difficult questions. And Diana will head over to you after, and then Felista will head over to you next after that as well. So Paige, over to you first.
I can't help thinking about, I believe there are 4 African-American women who were used and abused as test subjects for all of modern gynecology study. And when I think about how systematically abusive some research and like using people's bodies can tilt information into harmful studies and creating instead of like a legacy of health knowledge actually contributing to legacy trauma for cultural groups. I think that that needs to be examined and eradicated. I also believe that like that on the other end, continuing to proliferate old ideas from medical records or medical studies that are hundreds of years old, like hysteria or the lack of, oh, I just saw a red cardinal. It's the first of the year. Ooh, sorry, a moment here. Like that's a moment of good health. Ooh, when I just think of the historic wrongs and traumas, I think that there should be an accountability in discussing and saying we were wrong here, but now we have the tools and the mindset to be better. And we're now being led by hospital administration and teams that are diverse, full of women, including trans members. So changing who is creating the research and taking accountability for old harmful research pathways that were like you can see the impact of that today, where many groups are resistant to maybe vaccinations or different kinds of treatment, or even, and I don't have any stats in front of me, but we were talking about, as Lauren had talked about, fibroids. A massive percentage of Black women and I was impacted as well. But the lack of information for cultural groups that have a prevalence of health concerns. I think all of these can be having more clarity and more accountability around, and those consequences could more easily be dissolved with that sense of transparency, clarity, accountability. So I'll leave it at that. That was a hard question.
I think you handled it well, Paige. I think you handled it well. You did a good job. No, I agree. Transparency, accountability, super important. And, any old research should definitely be updated for sure. Especially, with AI now, we have tools now, we have technology now that can be used. But then again, can we trust what AI says as well at the same time? So especially when it comes to women's health. So anyway, thank you so much, Paige, for sharing your thoughts. Diana, like I said, we're going to hardline over to you next, and then we did say we'll go to Felista after. So Diana, same question for yourself. Paige expressed that accountability is super important, the transparency is super important from these past researchers, and that they should be updated. So what are your thoughts on all of this discussion so far, Diana?
Yes, I very much agree with what Paige said, and I don't know if you heard me when I had my question before that, but it's really connected to that misinformation as well, like why there are so much misinformation for women's health is because historically we have been left out from medical research because they have considered that the female hormonal cycle makes our data inconsistent. Therefore, they left us out from research, which means that everything about our health is based on the male biology, and it's totally two different things. So this is like we are fighting against prejudice here for us women to coming to an era where we recognize that the fact that we have a very fast cyclical nature, like a monthly cycle, it doesn't mean that our data is not reliable. It just means that it's very complex. And this is why it's important that women's lived experiences are part of this data. It is not just measured, like not just like measurable data, like how many days or what is the level here and there, but actually based on lived experiences. Because then the consequences is the fact that throughout the female hormonal cycle, which is like the whole life, it's not just the menstrual cycle, then we cannot follow women's health. Women cannot follow their own health. Women doesn't understand how they are transitioning from one stage to another and monitor their own health. Because as Shamama Lynn said, it's so important that we monitor our own health. We are connected to our body, because sometimes it's not about going to the doctor. It's just being able to manage our own body, understanding our own body. And I think we can see the consequences in modern life. So many fertility issues, so many women are misdiagnosed, especially in the perimenopausal phase, or their symptoms are brushed off and said, oh, that's just psychological and emotional issues, and there is nothing wrong with the body. And there is nothing wrong with the body, but the body is going through changes, which we need to acknowledge and support in the right way, not just with a medical diagnosis that, I don't know, they have anxiety, or they have hot flushes, or they have digestive issues, which are all coming in perimenopause. Those medical issues are true, but we also, going forward with the treatment, it needs to be considered that why those issues are coming, rather than just treating the diagnosis, because then you do ruin women's health. And this is not what we want to see. A 50-year-old woman has got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise. We want these women to be at work, in their position, in their leadership, because they will bring so much to the company, to life, to business, to all across the board. So it's economically is hurting the companies, life, countries, and women as well, and not just on the personal physical health level. If we underrepresented in clinical research and we don't start to really understand women's health the way we should. I hope that it's all sounded, I was all there.
you brought up some very interesting points, and the one that really kind of stood out for me was when you're talking about the perimenopause side of things, and just makes me think of the 1 billion women by 2030. If they've all got menopause and penopause, then just the issues that they could have and face from a lack of health education or understanding it themselves. That could be a big issue, like how you're saying with misdiagnosis and everything like that. So but yeah, anyway, thank you very much, Diana, for sharing. And yes, we completely heard everything you said, so it's all good. So Felista, let's head over to you now. The question for you, Felista, is hang on, let me get my English right. How do socioeconomic, I think that's how you say it, differences dictate access to healthcare? So we'll head over to you first, Felista, and then we'll head over to Lynn after.
Oh my God, I don't know even where to start on the issue of socioeconomic differences on access to health. And I cannot wait to think about the health insurance here in the United States, and also lack of even any other insurance in the rest of other parts of the world, where women have no access or have no or fewer resources to even be able to access any help that they need. And and I was looking at some of the figures, or even what it's led us to. Even you look at even the maternal mortality rates here in the United States, can you imagine that we have more women losing their lives when they're giving birth, and even more so for African American women? It's even so sad that we even allow such number of women to die every year as a developed country. And also, I owe even thinking about if at all I don't even control the narrative of even women health myself, and the discourse that we're seeing today, where even women health conversation brings a lot of political dilemma and discourse and all that. It's just so sad, and I kind of feel like as women we have a lot to play in the community, and as a collective we all need to realize that women are actually center in life giving, and we all need them to be taken care of, at all different
Felista,
stages of their life.
I'm sorry, very, very sorry to stop you there, but I'm afraid we have run out of time for this roundtable discussion. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, so thank you very much for sharing. And also thank you very much, each and every one panelists, for also sharing your thoughts as well. And that is it for this roundtable discussion. Our gather was well. And up next, we have a fireside chat with Lynn, with her special guest as well. So that'll be coming up next. Thank you very much, everyone. And also make sure you follow each and every one of these lovely ladies on LinkedIn as well. All right, that's it from us. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Collins, and I'm a hypnotherapist at Change Hypnotherapy and CTC Consultancy. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is very important to me personally, as it affects me personally. It's about women's health now, and it's about bridging the gap between experience and care. So When we talk about what women's health is, we tend to underestimate the serious disconnect that there is between access to care and facilities available. We are taught to believe that everything is equal and to men's health. And in actual fact, it's only recently that women's health has been even brought into the figure of medical examination overall. So for example, it was only in the 1990s that they started to treat women's bodies separately in diagnosis, in research, etc., to men's. Across the world, women are reporting pain, fatigue, and symptoms that most clinicians only recognize in hindsight. So even though we have countless studies showing that conditions such as endometriosis, autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue syndrome, heart disease, etc., are actually more common in women, but are diagnosed later than in men. So for example, women with heart attacks are 50% more likely to be misdiagnosed than men because their symptoms present differently. Research shows that women are more likely to be told their symptoms are psychological and less likely to receive appropriately diagnostic testing. This is really rooted not only in training gaps, but in gender bias. And both conscious or unconscious, it's happening to this very day. Unfortunately, these patterns are also showing up across race, class, and age. So where does the system fail? From insurance coverage that excludes reproductive and preventative care, to policies that treat women's health as secondary, to lack of research funded specifically for female biology, the cracks are systemic. Globally, billions of women lack access to essential health services, and even in wealthy nations, insurance denials and high out-of-pocket costs drive women to delay or forgo care altogether. So how do we begin to fix this? Well, first, our healthcare systems need to learn how to listen before they diagnose. That means training clinicians not only in symptoms, but in empathy, communication, and starting to fund research that prioritizes women's health, especially in our biology. Women need to be empowered to advocate for themselves. It shouldn't rest solely on our shoulders. There should be education, peer support networks, and tools like system trackers that help health literacy and programs that can help us speak confidently and know more about our bodies. Imagine a health system built around women's realities, one where data is disaggregated by sex, race, and age. So we see patterns early, where clinical training includes conditions like endometriosis, menopause, autoimmune diseases, pelvic pain, heart attack symptoms, and more as part of a core curriculum. One where listening is measured as part of quality care, where women are partners in their care and preventative medicine makes a difference. In order to change health outcomes for women now and for the future generations, we must confront bias, both in medical research and in everyday clinical interactions. We must invest in women's health, not because it's a niche, but because it's fundamental to societal well-being. Because to elevate women's health, we elevate the entire community. Thank you so much, and may your gather be well.
Happy International Women's Month to everyone. This is a wonderful way to start off a wonderful, wonderful month. I am Dr. Messina Morris, Director of Metaverse Programs at Morehouse College, also founder and CEO of Metaverse United, where we help people find where they belong in the embodiment of the internet called the metaverse. I am a wife and a mother to 5 sons, 2 of which have autism spectrum disorder at different levels. I am a caregiving mother and have been a caregiver to my elderly mother-in-law at one particular time of my life. God rest her soul. When I was growing up, I was taught a concept that stayed with me, that man means mind and that woman is the womb of the mind. For me, that is not just about biology. It's about women as a nurturing and cultivating place where minds are formed, strengthened, and loved. And not just male minds, not just female minds, all minds. That is why this moment matters. Women have been delivering personalized care long before technology had language for it. We are often the ones teaching how to care, how to listen, how to heal, and how to keep going. There's a saying that I love: she who learns teaches. It's an African proverb, and women do that every single day. Now, technology has finally reached a place where it can offer more personalized support for women too. Not to replace our humanity, but to help protect it. I know this not just professionally, but also personally. See, I'm a biomolecular chemist by training, and so I've had to study a lot of things on the cutting edge, but also on the cusp of medicine, neuropharmacology, neurochemistry, and many, many more things that just undergird healthcare. I live currently with the impact of a birth injury when I was carrying my 4th son that affects my health to this day. So I understand what it means to keep showing up while living in a body that also needs care. At the same time, I've carried the daily needs of 6 people in my home. 7, if you're counting my mother-in-law, who also lived with us, but my 5 sons and my husband, also caring for my mother-in-law in the early stages of dementia. And in the middle of that, my son, who has the most profound diagnoses of autism that you could have. So when I talk about women caring a great deal, I am not speaking in theory. I am literally speaking from something that I've lived and how I have learned to live along the way. And in a family like mine, a multi-generational family, health is never just one thing. It is many things all at once: appointments and medications, emotions, routines, sensory needs, memory loss, changing plans, and the invisible labor of trying to hold it all together without losing yourself. And that is why I believe technology matters most, when it can help ground a family. Not to distract us, not to replace us, but to ground us. The machine to make us more human. The best technology helps us track what matters, notice patterns earlier, coordinate care better, communicate more clearly, and make informed decisions with less chaos and more peace. It can help a family facing multiple health realities, like mine, still find rhythm, clarity, and breath. Technology should not just make women more productive, it should make women more well. And as we move deeper into this emerging technological world, women must be at the center of shaping it. We should be asking, does this innovation help us care for our health? Does it strengthen our families and our communities? Does it return time to us? Does it help us live longer, healthier, more whole lives for the people we love and who love us, as well as for ourselves? Because too often, women know what wellness requires, but we keep putting ourselves last. And this is our moment to change that. We can use technology to become more informed about our health, more connected to our communities, more aligned with our purpose, and more committed to our well-being. We can be nurturers of others and also nurturers of ourselves. I am Dr. Mom, M-O-M, a molder of minds, and that is my mission, to help us use technology to become more grounded, more informed, more well, more human, and better. Women have always nurtured the world. Now it is time to make sure that the tools of the future nurture women too. Thank you so much and enjoy this GatherVerse Women's Summit. May our gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to our first fireside chat for Day 2 GatherVerse Women's Health Summit. My name is Lingitao, Communications Director at GatherVerse, and on this particular fireside chat, we're going to talk about leading from wholeness, healing, legacy, and community strength. And with me, I have a special guest. I would really request her to introduce herself, tell us who she is and what inspired her to join us today and where she's streaming live from. So, Isioma, please tell us who you are.
Hi, Lynn. Trust you can hear me. I am super excited to be here today. My name is Isioma Okolo. I'm Nigerian by origin. I do have many countries that I feel very close to. One of them is Kenya, where I spent a number of years, and also the UAE. So I've had the opportunity of partnering with leaders across Africa and across the Middle East. But I'm joining you here today from Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm really looking forward to having a really important conversation around wholeness. It's not often that we have conversations around wholeness. Yes, we're very familiar with the terminology about wellness, but what does it mean? What does wholeness mean? And for me, this is not just a professional journey. This is a personal journey. Having come from a very rich and accelerated career in a multinational setting, I now help leaders to lead and live from a place of wholeness, because I experienced when my body fell apart, and I have had personal experience with burnouts, and I've had experiences in terms of what it means to align, what it means to build, and what it is to contribute to society from that place. Yeah.
Wow, Isioma, that is very impressive. And I'm just curious, I'm approaching this fireside with a lot of curiousness, especially when you said there's a big difference between wellness and wholeness. But let me just pick that up and drag that thread to our first chat. What does it mean to lead from wholeness, especially for leaders, executives who are female?
Yeah. I think that's a question I often get a lot. You know, what does it mean to lead from a place of wholeness? I think that the current setup in a lot of organizations is that leadership is really output based. It's very performance driven. There's nothing really wrong with performance in that sense, but it's always what is behind, what is driving that performance, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on hitting targets. There's a lot of emphasis on outcome, on productivity, but no one is really talking about how do we get there? What is the cost of doing that? And so for me, leading from a place of wholeness is really acknowledging and embracing the fact that, you know, we are multi-layered personalities, we're multi-layered people, and that I'm on this journey towards ensuring that my body is healthy, because I need a healthy body to do my everyday life, you know, to ensure that my mind is resilient, to ensure that my emotions are well regulated, to ensure that I'm living from a place of a strong identity, knowing who I am, and to come from a place where I'm doing meaningful work and actually contributing to society. So I see this at that as that meeting point where there is an alignment between all these things that we are working towards. And I've come to realize that leading from that place, there is a difference between when you are performing to because you are under pressure, but you are performing from a place that you understand who you are. You're performing from a place where it is very much aligned with your values, that when you are confronted by decisions, you're very clear about the decisions that you are making, that you are very clear about what is driving that your values are aligned with the decisions that you make and the way that you lead your people. I find that this is the conversation that really needs to happen that triggers a wider conversation around sustainable leadership, where people are not breaking down because they have to do their jobs every day, where female leaders are not breaking down because there is a lot of responsibility. And that's how we build legacy. If legacy is the thing that outlives us, then surely we need to be able to take care of this body. We need to be able to take care of this mind, and we need to take care of the thing that drives us. And it cannot be happening piecemeal. So it's like we're living this fragmented life where we think that if I do this, it has no impact on this. But what happens when we start looking at our lives from an integrated perspective and living from that place and leading from that place? So that's what I think it means to lead from a place of wholeness rather than from a performance-based mindset.
Yes, Ijeoma, that was beautifully said. And I want to just follow up with what you said. And it's very good to acknowledge that that is how legacies are built. Legacies are not built by performance only, but by also keeping in touch with our bodies and taking care of them with every might that we can. And I just want to follow up on the issue of burnout, because there are so many women, we've had them, they're career women, they barely have time for themselves. And something like burnout may creep in without their knowledge. So why is exhaustion, burnout normalized in workplaces, and how can that be addressed?
Yeah. I smile, I'm sure, as you can see, because
Yes.
I have both personal and professional experience with this. I do not think that organizations set out to normalize burnout. I don't think that's the
Okay.
intent. But what
Tell us more.
happens is that we normalize the behaviors that cause burnout. You see,
I
so
hear
we've
you.
normalized things like, walking past work hours, consistently. I want to use the word consistently. There are moments when we feel like we have something to close out. But when we are doing that consistently, when we're working weekends consistently, without thinking about the impact on our family, the impact on our community, what else can we contribute? And life is just that I need to do this thing. I need to, and when we're working on sick leave, some people are off on sick and they're still working,
Mm.
and so is that behavior. And when we see these things in organizations, we tend to term them as dependability. This person is reliable. This person is committed. This person is ambitious. They're ready to burn down the midnight oil every day. And so these are the things that are rewarded in organizations: ambition, reliability, dependability. And so what happens is that we are inadvertently, celebrating the behaviors that lead to exhaustion. We normalize that and we reward that. And so exhaustion becomes almost a badge of honor. It's the thing that makes me feel, it's the signal that I send that this is my way of showing that I am committed to my organization, that I'm loyal to this organization. And unfortunately, what happens is that most of the time we attach our value to that. Now, where does this come in for women? Now we know that women naturally in whether it's a male-dominated environment or not, there is a tendency for us to consciously or unconsciously work 10 times harder because we feel like we need to prove something. We need to prove ourselves. But unfortunately, what happens is, just like you said, burnout creeps on you. It doesn't happen suddenly. It starts little by little, and we don't see it, but we keep pushing because we need to deliver. Who would I be if I'm not the woman that is strong? Who would I be if I'm not the woman that's able to deliver on this thing? So we keep pushing, and then finally our bodies break down. So what's happening is that I experienced that firsthand. I began to have severe gut health issues that eventually landed me in ICU. I was stretched out of my home, put on an ambulance, rushed to the ER, and eventually found myself in ICU and listening to all beeping sounds of the machine. And then I asked myself, how did we get here? And so most of the time, we don't see that curve. We don't see when we are driven and our drive gets to a level of exhaustion, and it gets to a place when we start to fragment and we start to wonder, why am I doing this? We start to fall apart. And then we get to a place where there's collapse and it's burnout. And there's a research that shows that 47% of women are more likely to burn out than men, who show more around 37%. So it is something that is really real, and it is something that we need to be very self-aware of. But one of the things that I found out from personal experience and with working with female leaders or leaders in general is burnout is just a symptom. It's a symptom.
Okay.
It is a story of silent neglect. When you constantly and repeatedly neglect yourself. But underneath that, there's a next level is why. Why do we do that? Because until we're able to really uncover why do I constantly neglect myself, then we're not able to tackle burnout at the root cause.
Isioma, that was deeply expressed, and I could capture so many things, and I could see the relatability to so many women, not only even the ones who are in the career path, but also those who are maybe in their full-time roles as mothers and wives. It creeps in, generally applies to all women around the world, but I just have a follow-up question to that. What makes women just go beyond their own self and forget themselves to just prove to the world that I can do this, I need to do this, but eventually it only proves to the world I'm ready to sacrifice my health to make you happy. Do you get what I'm saying? What
yes,
makes
absolutely.
women have that syndrome?
So I think that it goes down to our identity, how we see ourselves. I remember once I made a joke about a lot of people would categorize me as a strong woman, and I see that a lot, and it gets to a point you're like, no, I don't want that title anymore. I don't want that identity anymore.
Yes.
And that's because when you are when you present a certain way and people then recognize that in you, there's a tendency for you to want to keep up that role as a strong one. And it's really, really ingrained in culture and upbringing. These are the things that actually shape who we are. I've had instances where women will say things like, in my family, we were raised to be high achievers. So going to university, going to school, we always had to be top. We had to be top. We had to be top. And so that was ingrained. And for want of a better way to put it, it's almost a programming where you don't know who you are except the performer, the achiever, the ambitious one, the strong one. I come from an African background, culture, but I've had the opportunity of interacting with multiple cultures. And for example, the African culture, the Middle Eastern culture is very communal, and there is a tendency for you to feel a sense of responsibility to family, to society. And a lot of women and female leaders that I've come across have been the first in their families to accomplish a lot of things. So there's a weight that also comes with that. There is a weight that comes with, for example, women who are the firstborns in the family if you come from a certain culture. So all these things shape that. if you're a woman and you're a wife and you're a mother and you have kids and you're working or you have your own business, there's also a tendency for you to want to show up with the ability to juggle all these balls without falling, without anyone falling. And what happens is that sometimes we don't ask for help because Superman or Wonder Woman in our minds doesn't ask for help. But even Wonder Woman is a part of the Justice League. Sorry, I love movies, so I can't help but make that analogy.
Yes.
We all need a Justice League, but as long as we continue to see ourselves as this, and it has its advantages. This is why we go into the marketplace and we're able to, make so many, have so many accomplishments, make so much impact in the world. But I think it draws from an identity that has been designed from when we were much younger, about women needing to stand out, needing to do 10 times more wherever you are, and needing to shine and needing to present yourself in a certain way.
Isioma, you talked about culture, you talked about different people around the world and how they treat this. And this is not us vilifying achievements. No, we're not saying achieving is bad. We're just saying how to achieve that balance, right? Achieving things. And I know so many women are want to achieve. It's good to see someone like you, Isioma, who has been very successful in her career. And I would look at you from a young age and say, I want to be like Isioma. So, but how do women achieve that balance? How can they just put that balance of achieving and taking care of themselves more?
Yeah. I think first of all, it starts with, I would say, pause. And I know it sounds really simple, but we live in a very fast-paced world. And so oftentimes we don't have the time to just pause and look at our lives and examine it, and to see where are we going. And like I said, are we nourishing our bodies? Are we nourishing ourselves? So I feel that one of the first ways, actually, I like to take a very systemic approach to change. Again, when we try to do change one way without considering the multiple layers, it doesn't always help. I think it's important that a woman, we're able to pause and say to ourselves, where am I right now? And it's okay that at this point in my life, I may not be able to do that, or I may be able to do this, but we need to be able to slow down. We need to be able to pause. We need to be able to take stock. The thing, it's when we pause, we're able to create space for self-awareness. So first of all, it first starts with, am I aware of what's happening around me? And am I able to question what is going on in my life without judgment? Because it's very easy for us to jump into, oh, I'm not good enough. Or, you can come up with many narratives that may not be right, And so it's being able to do that, question that without judgment, and then say, what do I need? So there has to be a conscious change. What kind of conversations do I need to have? Whether it's having it with myself, whether it's having it with my partner, whether it's having it with friends. This is where community comes in. It's the same thing about talking about the Justice League, right? So it is first of all, being able to, pause, increase your self-awareness, take a conscious change, and then build a structure around how do we reevaluate where we are? How do we make sure that we are getting what we need? And what is it that we are okay to drop now and we can always pick up later without feeling like it diminishes us in any way? I think those are ways to sort of kick off that balance. Yes.
Yes, and that's a very beautiful framework. I think that should be out there. And that is why we're having conversations like this. Press the pause button, have the situational awareness, and take an evaluation of yourself without self-judgment, and then build structures that really support where you want to be. But when it comes to structures, I just want to shift the gear a little bit. Where do you think society or the corporate system is failing women's health consistently?
Okay, so when I think about this, I think about it that there is a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, I'm going to explain. I feel like what happens in organizations sometimes is that we have made giants around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I find that in women's health, there is there's the unseen and unspoken conversations that are not having. So today, a lot of organizations have not taken into account the biological makeup of women. And so we are expecting women to work and thrive in an environment that has not taken into account the biological woman and how it impacts her ability to deliver every day on the job. So what do I mean? So things like, hormonal changes that women go through. These are real physiological changes that women encounter. There's a monthly cycle that happens in a woman's life. There is perimenopause. There are fertility, cycles within a woman's life. There is menopause as well. These are conversations that we really need to be able to have where women's health are also concerned within the corporate space. And maternity and return to work, which shows me that organizations can actually adapt. They can adapt when they choose to. So for me, the question is, how can we, again, pause? How can we come into the table where both male and female leaders are having open dialogue about to be a woman with the various biological and physiological changes that happen in her lifespan in the workplace? I think that's a great way to sort of initiate policy changes. This is a great way to start having conversations about the tools that women need to ensure that they are actually thriving at the place of work.
Ishema, I just want to reflect on something. You said if organizations choose to, they can make this happen. What does that look like? How does an organization choose? I want to make sure that women in my space, they're considered in every stage of their health life. And how do they make it happen? Briefly, before our time really runs off.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, I think it's something, it's a conversation that we shy away from. And in this instance, this is where I will challenge male leaders as well within the organization to say, are we open to having that dialogue? It requires that someone will have to champion that cause, but it also means that we should be open-minded to have an open dialogue. It requires us sitting at the table and having that conversation. When we have mental health days today, I know some organizations are already putting in place policies around the monthly cycle. Is how can we accelerate this by having open dialogue? I think it first starts with that, and then we can kick off with what else can we do.
Right, it starts with the dialogue. Right. As our times, as fast as it comes, as fast as it goes, we would really have enjoyed more time with you and learning from you. But just give us a few takeaway. What would you tell women around the world, young and old, all careers, whatever field they're in? What would you tell them? What's your last takeaway?
I would say, be bold. Be bold. Take and be willing to evolve. I find that sometimes we feel like evolution is a betrayal. It's not. You can choose something today, you can evolve into something tomorrow, and it requires you to be able to make those bold changes in your life and to be able to embrace them. So I will say, young, middle-aged, whatever stage in life you are, be bold, be willing to evolve, build a community, be a part of a community, and find ways to contribute to that community. It is one of the quickest ways to feeling and living whole.
All right. Dear GatherVerse community, that was Isioma. Be bold, be willing to have those conversations. And please, ladies, take that pause button and an evaluation button. And Isioma, thank you so much for joining us. It was such an honor being in your presence. Our audience, we encourage you, please follow Isioma on LinkedIn. Her details are below. Engage with her. Check out what she's doing. And of course, we welcome you back again. Thank you so much. And as for Fireside Chat, our gather was well. Thank you.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Many women are known for their strength. It's because we hold everything together. We are the ones others rely on. We keep going, even if we are exhausted. But there is something we don't often talk about, and that is the hidden cost of always being the strong one. I am Diana Rodriguez, the founder of Resilient Agility and the author of The Phoenix Within. For most of my life, I have been known as the strong one, and I know many other women who go through the same things. We hold everything together, we keep going, even if life is difficult. We carry the responsibilities, the expectations, and most often the emotional weight of other people. From the outside, this may look like resilience, but what people don't see is the hidden cost of always being the strong one. Strength eventually becomes our identity. We become the person who copes, who manages, who keeps moving forward, no matter what. But then one day, these strategies that we use to survive just begin to exhaust us completely. The strength we rely on, it's just no longer sustainable. We battle with burnout, overwhelm, and then we reach a quiet realization that we have been carrying far more than we were ever meant to carry alone. And when that moment arrives, it might feel like something inside us is breaking. But what if the breaking is not failure? What if this is actually an important turning point in our lives? These moments often signal something much deeper, something where we realize the old version is no longer able to continue the way it has been for so many years. And yes, it is a frightening situation, because how do we carry on when this is what we used to and now we no longer want to be that person? This transformation that can come into you brings freedom. That's when we stop trying to hold everything together and we start asking questions. What is it that I truly need? What are the boundaries that I have ignored? Which parts of myself have I silenced just to keep being the strong one? When we start listening to the questions, we realize strength actually has a new meaning. It means that we no longer endure this road alone. It brings awareness. We are able to be honest with ourselves. We build the courage to move forward in a different way, in a much healthier way. This is what I call the Phoenix moment. Whatever no longer serves us falls away, and it allows us to bring something stronger and authentic within us that can rise like a phoenix. This change is rarely loud or dramatic. It usually begins quietly, with a pause, a breath, or just a moment of honesty. Honesty with ourselves. This decision to stop carrying whatever was never ours to carry alone, that is where we find true resilience. Because true resilience is not about never breaking. True resilience allows us to emerge after we do. You have been the strong one. And today I'm inviting you to remember that strength is not measured by how much you endure. Strength is the best thing you can do for yourself. It's something that can allow you to begin again. Be resilient. Break limits, laugh, transform.
What if the most dangerous voice in your life is not one that you can hear from the outside, but rather one that is sitting inside your own mind? My name is Kim Vermark. I'm known as the Mindset Whisperer. And today we're going to be speaking about mental health and AI. Now, I struggled with postpartum depression when I had my first child. In fact, I had it with all three children. But the first one was by far the worst, because then I was a single parent and I was struggling with what a lot of people with mental health conditions have: isolation. Now, in an overextended medical system, we have to ask, can AI support people in their mental health, or can it actually make it worse in terms of isolation? You know, currently in the media, there is a lot of representation going on, and there are court cases taking AI developers to court because young people had started out asking basic questions about schoolwork and about work and other areas of interest. And eventually AI became a companion, and eventually AI became a dependency for them. And eventually they became isolated from their family and friends who understood them and understood their demographic. So that's the downside of it. But AI can help us in so many different ways. So for me, when I had postpartum depression, it was a great many years ago, and AI wasn't a real thing. And so I reached out for help because one night I woke up with the most terrifying intrusive thoughts, ones that if I acted on them would be absolutely devastating. Now, I was adopted, and I made a promise to myself that I would never abandon my child. The first telephone call that I made, well, that person took 10 days to get back to me. The second telephone call I made, there was a gentleman on the other side who asked me this question: would you like to give the baby up for adoption? It was a template question that he asked. And that can be like AI, asking those questions when you don't understand the context. My context was that I would not give my child up because I'm a second generation adoptee. And that meant the most important thing for me was to break the cycle. But still, I had the isolation issue, that place where I'm like, who am I going to call at this time of the night? Now, when you do have AI, you could have something where there are questions that get asked to you, where you don't feel like you're waiting in the abyss for someone to help you. You could have a pre-recorded video that comes over in the way that I'm presenting this video so that someone can feel less lonely. Because shame and loneliness are the things that are going to stop people from reaching out. But there has to be some kind of a balance. There's got to be a place where we are assisting each other and bridging from that AI initial intervention to real human beings. When I got help, it was by sitting in front of a counselor, someone who could assist me, someone who understood what I was going through, real life experience, who could sense my emotions, who could see when I was on the edge, when I couldn't reach out, where things became so much harder. And so that's what I want to encourage you today. If you are in the space where you can help other people, AI should be a tool to help us bridge from where you are at now to reaching out for real help and real support.
I'm Tara Jade Fox. I'm a professional actor, speaker, and coach, and I'd love to share a little story. Something actually not a lot of people know about me, but I have a rare metabolic disorder, something called phenylketonuria, or PKU for short. If you have kids, they, when they're born, in the hospital, they do a heel prick test, and that's for like hundreds of different, metabolic disorders most people never get. The most popular out of that, or the most likely one to get, is PKU. So they call it the PKU test. So there is no cure for PKU currently. There have been some that have been talked about and are being researched, but no cure as of yet. When I was born and all the way through high school, I had to do a very low protein diet, as there was no medication that could really offset any of that. I had a medical protein shake, basically a high protein powder that tasted horrible, smelled like hot garbage, and was not pleasant to have, but I needed it so I could get all of the other high protein stuff, all the amino acids, minus phenylalanine that I couldn't have, but I could still get like a lot of the good nutrition. And I had to supplement with just doing a really, really, really low diet, like 6 grams of protein a day. That's equivalent to 1 Snickers bar a day in protein. Very, very little, all through growing up. Once I hit my 20s, they came out with a medication that allowed me to have more protein. And then years later, they came out with shots where now I can eat anything. It helps take care of, metabolizing all of that protein, all that phenylalanine, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. In my lifetime, I have seen multiple phases of this rare disorder, going from nothing to now a lot of us don't even have to worry about watching our diet anymore at all. And that is a lot of medical advances in not a very big amount of time. And there's still more happening. We are researching how to look at cures. And I know this is important, for women and women's health in general, not just my rare metabolic disorder, but for women's health in general. There's a lot of research being done into a lot of stuff that's long overdue. And in that, we're using a lot of AI as research assistants, which I think is great because it can speed up the process for, the young women and girls who are coming after us, if they don't have to go through what we have to go through. So kids born with PKU now don't have to deal with the low protein diet that I had to deal with. That, quite frankly, was very difficult at times, to go to birthday parties and not be able to have the cupcakes. The point being, though, if we can speed up the time for research so that the girls and the women coming after us don't have to struggle like we did, I am all for that. So using AI responsibly in medical research, I think, is such a great thing and can really speed up this process, as well as we don't lose our humanity in the process. As long as we take the time, because AI cannot replace us. It can't replace our experiences. AI would not be able to tell you what I just told you, that story. Now, it might recite it, but it can't give you the lived experience. And that's what I really want to say is in this age of AI, and we're using it for medical and for other things. You know, we might not be in the medical field ourselves, but we're using it on a day-to-day basis, maybe for our regular workflows. Don't forget to add in the human. Don't forget to listen to the stories of people, the people who have stuff that are heartfelt. That is where we can use AI responsibly, help bring all of these health initiatives and research faster and more efficiently, and keep the patient's story up front. You know, people are at the heart of everything we do, and we need to keep it that way. And I think that's so important that we keep humanity, we keep our authentic lived experiences the heart of what we do.
What if the most important question in AI right now isn't what it can do, but what it should protect? We talk about emergency, about systems that act on their own, about autonomy, but something else is happening too. The more powerful our systems become, the more fragile human trust feels. And that tension isn't technical, it's human. We are moving from AI that helps us to AI that acts for us, from tools that respond to systems that make decisions. And when systems start acting without us, the real fear is not intelligence, it's loss of control. When people say I don't trust AI, what they usually mean is I don't know how it made that decision. I don't know what it's trying to optimize. I don't know if I can step in. That's not just a design issue, that's a trust issue. A few years ago, I built a marketing automation company. The numbers look great. Higher conversion, lower costs, faster workflows, but something didn't feel right. We were optimizing for performance without asking what needed protecting. Time, clarity, people, and that changed how I think about AI today. I built an AI digital twin called Serafina, not to replace people, but to help them delegate safely. Serafina can draft content, manage workflows, and respond within set limits. But the human always stays in charge. That one decision, keeping the human as the final decision maker, changed how people reacted. They didn't feel replaced, they feel supported, and the adoption increased. So here's the shift I want to suggest. In this new era of AI, trust must be part of the foundation, not an afterthought, not a disclaimer at the bottom of a page. Built in from the start. And trust grows through three simple things. 1. Clear intent. Every AI system should answer, what are you trying to optimize? Revenue, engagement, speed, behavior. If people can't see the goal, they won't trust the system. Clear goals build confidence. 2. Human control. AI can act, but human must stay in control. The most trusted systems can be paused, be corrected, be reviewed. When people know they can step in, they are more willing to step back. That's when delegation becomes natural. 3. Identity protection. AI should reflect the person using it, not erase them. When systems align with someone's voice, values, and priorities, they feel empowering. When they feel generic or manipulative, they feel unsafe. Trust grows when identities stay intact. When these three things are present, something powerful happens. People adopt faster. They stay longer. They delegate more confidently. Because trust builds momentum. We often assume the smartest AI will win. But history shows something different. The technology that wins is the one people feel safe enough to use. AI will not scale because it is powerful. It will scale because it feels accountable. So maybe the real question for all of us building in this space is, are we just building smarter systems? Or are we building systems people can trust? Because intelligence spreads, but trust compounds. And the systems that compound trust will shape the future.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Porter. I'm from Sofa Roots Consulting Group. Today, we want to thank each and every one of you for joining the Women's Health Month. And I, being a speaker today, I want to talk a little bit about when the heart speaks, midlife, health, leadership, legacy. 15 years ago, at the age of 46, my heart spoke loudly. I had a heart attack. Not a warning, not a gentle nudge, a heart attack. And in that moment, everything I thought meant something to me shifted. That's right, 46. I call it the interruption. Before that day, I was doing what men and women do, holding everything together, managing responsibilities, pushing through fatigue, taking care of children, being dependable. I believe endurance was strength, but the heart does not negotiate with denial. It does not care how capable you are or how many people rely on you. When it speaks physically, it is no longer a whisper, it's a reckoning. The heart does not negotiate with terrorists, as they say. We call it a midlife crisis. I call it a midlife revelation. It's when the body tells the truth, the mind has postponed. We internalize stress, we normalize pressure, but the heart keeps record. At 46, mine said, you cannot leave from depletion. You are empty. Midlife is not a crisis, I said, it's a revelation. It is the moment the body tells the truth, the moment the mind has postponed. We internalize stress and normalize pressure, but the heart keeps the record. You cannot leave from depletion. Midlife strength is not about doing more. It's about doing what sustains you. Some things we need to cross out in our life when it comes to things such as midlife and women. We need to cross out over-functioning. You're doing too much. Over-giving. Sometimes we give over to others than we give to our own selves. Over-performing. We can't do it all, people. But we have to learn how to sustain and protect those things. That's important. Midlife needs systems, not hustle. We do not need more willpower. We got a lot of that already. We need systems that reduce the decisions that we have made in our life. Things like fatigue. Technology can be overwhelming or it can be very supportive. I've invented an AI agent. I call him Jeff the Chef. I invented him because he cooks directly. Well, he doesn't cook, but he helped me prepare meals that help affect my heart and keep me in shape. He doesn't replace my doctor. He doesn't replace wisdom, but he supports consistency, and consistency protects the heart. Technology as stewardship. I'm going to let you meet Jeff the Chef, my AI agent. At midlife, we don't need more hustle. We need more system that reduce that fatigue, as we talked about earlier. Jeff the Chef, he helped me align my daily habits with my heart has taught me from 15 years ago. This is not endurance. This is responsibility. Well, this is leadership. If we are guiding generations, we must model sustainability. We cannot teach younger women that exhaustion equals dedication. We need to learn that on our own as well. As a woman, burnout is a no-no. We are called the unstoppable woman. A visible woman is powerful. A well woman is unstoppable. What is your heart saying? What is your heart saying to you? What pace needs adjusting? What things in your life that you need to set boundaries on? What systems could support you instead of draining you? The preservation. When the heart speaks through exhaustion and interruption, it is not trying to shame us. It is trying to preserve us. And we have to be preserved, just like the pictures in them jar that grandmama taught us years ago. Again, my name is Linda Porter. Thank you for allowing me to speak at Women's Health, the Women's Health Summit, and I do appreciate you.
Greetings and welcome back to GatherVerse Women's Health Summit Day 2, 2026. Lynn, we're at our conclusion, and we'd like to gain your brief thoughts on not only what we just experienced in hearing today and the series of expressions from speakers from around the world that have come to assemble with us for this summit, but also with the information that we've received, not only here on Day 2, but on Day 1 as well.
Christopher, thank you for having me as a good conclusion to the summit. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who joined us, every speaker. I really feel a deep sense of appreciation for every woman who just came to the summit, and they gave their heartfelt expression. They shared some of their secrets, maybe they've never shared about their health, but they trusted us enough to give us that information. So first and foremost, I really want to thank you to every speaker, to everyone who has been watching and engaging with these conversations. Now, for these 2 days, I'm still reflecting, and I really dragged the thread from our previous Women's Health Summit that was on 2025, which was equally heartfelt. And I felt like this was another deeper level of conversation, and I couldn't advocate for more summits like this than I am right now. And I'm already planning a 2027 Summit Women's Health because of the insights that are being shared here from innovation, from each and every stage of women's health, the transitions that comes from being a girl to a woman to a now older woman, the transitions that are in between, and how do you take care of them We've also talked about how to take care of ourselves in our workplace and whatever we do. We have learned about supporting each other and being pillars of each other when it comes to looking out for each other. So for me, that was one of my some of my takeaways.
What do you think are the next steps here at this intersection, in particular, from AI and XR and women's health? And based on the expressions that have been given and shared and rendered, what do you see, at least on the innovative scale, of what's now next needed, based on the expressions and then from your own real world lens of experience?
You know, Christopher, we've talked about innovation. There are good things that were mentioned and how technology is helping a lot of women. Like just the previous chart, we have one of our speakers who has an AI agent who is a chef for her, right? Who keeps her heart in a good condition. So there are so many things that have been mentioned about technology that are good. And there are also very many things that are concerning. If I may say, and they pose a threat to women's health and the society in general. Like, for example, the screen time, the relationship between young people and technology, which is brewing up quite in-depthly compared to the relationship between the young people and people themselves. That is something to really be worrying. We also talked about privacy, safety, what data is being captured by these machines, and who does it belong to? And we definitely concluded that each and every data about women's health should belong to women. So I would first advocate on safety and privacy as one of our standards, putting companies accountable and also educating one another. You know, we can't do any action if we don't know these things are happening, right? If we're just oblivious of whatever is happening, there's no amount of effort we can put that can really go further. So for me, it really starts with education, awareness, and that is why we're having conversations like this. This summit is worthwhile watching again and again and again. And I actually believe some of our some future generations, if YouTube and all our streaming platforms will be available, this is something they will watch and they will say, GatherVerse told us about this, and this is how to handle this. So for me, I'm just looking forward to more women innovating, more funding for women who are developing these systems. We've had founders, we've had people like Dr. Robin Rice, she's creating something. You know, founders such as that, we need to bring more women together and fund them, support them, encourage them, and also create a whole awareness and education all over the world in the most simplest way we can.
Thank you, Lynn, for your conclusionary expressions, and our gather was well.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll call Russell Bundy to get his perspective from the roundtables that he has moderated. Russell, greetings and welcome, and please share with us what are some of your closing perspectives on what was shared both here in day 1 and day 2 here at GatherVerse Women's Health Summit 2026?
I believe that this was a needed summit to happen and discussions to happen too. We talk about, you know, myself and you, Christopher, we talk about AI all the time. We talk about technology all the time, and, you know, just the lack of when it comes to the healthcare side for women, when it comes to the AI side in particular, you know, just the lack of it and the lack of input from women's side, especially when it comes to women's health. I think that's very underutilized and is extremely important as we head into the AI age, and I think becomes more autonomous. And I think, you know, we do need more women on that side to have input and have say within that, so that we can have the correct AI for women and for women's health. So then that way, then they have a reliable AI, so to speak, that is accurate too, where they can get the correct information from for their health and for their healthcare. So, and then, you know, we spoke about also the history as well, in terms of also like the misinformation and that as well. That also needs to be taken into account, and just how important that updating that is as well is extremely important. So I think those are the sort of the two main points that I kind of took away from even today's discussion as well.
Thank you, Russell. And one last quick question for you. I am very curious, and since you have such a deep reservoir of understanding of trust in AI, what does that mean at the intersection of women's health and tools related to today and what we might understand of them tomorrow?
I think the verification side is going to be extremely important in terms of verifying the correct standards, verifying the correct like signal, so to speak, as in when you're sort of diagnosing, etc. That kind of sort of side of things, and just verifying the evidence and proof that the AI is supposed to be doing what it's supposed to be doing for women. I think that side is going to be tremendously important, because in order for women to be able to trust the AI tools and even, let's say, robots or surgery or anything extremely important like that, they're going to want to know that these the AI is held to the highest standard possible, but also that it's verifiable and it's trustworthy too, in terms of, okay, these are the 20 things, in particularly for women's health, that is passed, and that is held to that standard, and that it's safe for them to be diagnosed or have operation or whatever it may be from that side of things. So basically, in a nutshell, just to kind of summarize up, it's going to be extremely important for women when it comes to verification and trust, and it's going to be fundamental for women to be able to trust these AI. So,
and is that inclusive of distributed ledger when it comes to decentralized record keeping and information for newfound research? I mean, can we also see a place in that when it comes to trust and it's verifiable as well?
Absolutely. And, we talk about owning your data and stuff like that too. I mean, that comes under blockchain as well. So I think blockchain is going to be able to allow the transparency and accountability, extremely important. It's going to allow that through the blockchain, through the data. And also it's going to allow you to also go back in time to see if something 5 years ago was diagnosed. You're going to have a mutable resource for that is logged and put on the blockchain, so that you can track back to that moment that happened. So, and you can see what happened, see how it's diagnosed, who diagnosed it, what happened after that, etc. The blockchain is going to be extremely important for all of that.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing more of Just Verify's contributions towards women's health and tools for everyone's men's health, women's health, and more. Thank you very much for sharing and helping lead, Russell. Our Gather was well.
Our Gather was well. Thank you.
And that concludes us for Women's Health Summit, GatherVerse 2026, our 41st Global Summit. As I sat and listened under the banner of the voices of expressions that have come arrive, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, from around the world, I find myself residually inspired by what's been expressed here. That there are people that care. That there are leaders, both women and men alike, that care about women's health at the intersection of emerging technologies. My further hope is that each of you that have come to join us from around the world at GatherVerse.live and elsewhere in various social streams, that you'll take this information and perhaps find a point of reference, of inspiration to share with others. There's never been more of an important time to innovate with care. We have moments, ladies and gentlemen, before we prospectively see machine take off. We've never seen technology move at the pace it's moving if there were ever a time that we took serious pause and consideration and still able to move fast, this would be that time. GatherVerse serves and is thankful to serve at the interest and towards the benefit of humankind globally. Peace in the Middle East. Peace in Ukraine. We hope that each of you are keeping well with your families. We hope that all of you will continue to be well. You never know what someone's going through. Be kind. Extend that to one another. These are very different times for many people. Our next summit is focused on AI education and the crisis therein. If you have a heart to speak and share, we welcome you. Further in the month, into April, we have our AI and XR for Humanity Summit. We're expecting tremendous turnout. These are two of the most important applied sciences the world has ever known, and we are not prepared. Lastly, GatherVerse stands as an ally, as a friend, as an advocate, as a supporter, and a contributor at this intersection. We hope that you found great benefit in gathering with us this week. We hope that you share what you've heard. We look forward to returning again. And as for this summit, our gather was well. And upon the next time that we're afforded the opportunity to meet together, may our gather be well. Thank you.